You know, when I'm playing a game where I get to stab a guy in the face with a syringe, that's when I realize I've got the perfect life. Hello, ladies, gentlemen, everyone in between. I was given the opportunity to preview Wadjet Eye Games' new title Shardlight several weeks before release, and after beating it, I wanted to share my thoughts with all of you now that the game is out on Steam and GOG.com. Shardlight was designed by Francisco Gonzalez, the man behind the Ben Jordan series of paranormal mysteries and Wadjet Eye's earlier 1920s real estate adventure A Golden Wake, along with Ben Chandler, a veteran of the adventure game studio community and resident Wadjet Eye artist since the Blackwell Epiphany. The story of this game takes place 20 years after an event called Blast Day destroyed modern civilization as we know it. Now, a small community of people struggle to survive in the ruins of an unnamed city governed by the despotic aristocrats, while the privileged upper classes loyal to the government are handed everything on a silver platter. You step into the red cloak of Amy Wellard, a young mechanic suffering from the virulent green lung disease, who is thus forced to take on dangerous work for the aristocrats for a chance to enter the vaccine lottery. But soon, she finds herself recruited by the local resistance and their zealous leader Danton to strike back against the aristocrats in order to end the inequality and hopefully create a better future for everybody. Now, we've obviously seen a lot of post-apocalyptic fiction, especially in video games, but while Shardlight takes some obvious inspiration from things like Fallout or Children of Men, it still manages to put its own spin on things and tell a compelling story. For one, the game's world is largely grounded in reality. Aside from a brief, surreal venture into Amy's psyche, there's nothing overtly fantastical or futuristic to be found. Only everyday people with everyday problems. Amy herself is smart, sympathetic, and relatable, but over the course of the story she finds herself forced into horrible situations and having to take drastic actions, which obviously weighs heavily on her. It's a dog-eat-dog world she finds herself in, and the game does not shy away from bloody violence or the nastier side of life. That said, the other characters are generally likable enough, and provide some levity and humanity to take away from the gloomier parts. The game manages to craft an interesting, unique world as well, with its own look and feel. On the one hand, you have the ruined city, with many recognizable parts of civilization reduced to rubble, which manages to be both awe-inspiring and disturbing. But at the same time, seeing the people piece together what they can find in order to stay alive makes the environments feel a bit more hospitable. Then there's the posh upper class and the aristocrats, heavily inspired by the American Revolution with their old-timey fashion and uniforms. Especially eerie is the aristocrats' big man, Minister Tiberius, who's constantly clad in a George Washington wig and porcelain mask, refitted to function as a gas mask for that special post-apocalyptic touch. Also worthy of note are the ravens that you find everywhere out in the wasteland, always creepily watching, which has led to local superstitions of them being spies for a deity known as the Reaper, who is subsequently being worshipped by a death cult. Well, everyone calls them a cult, but surprisingly they're actually a pretty well-adjusted bunch when you get to know them, as opposed to the dim view these kind of stories usually have of religion. All in all, the story is compelling and immersive, what with exploring the world and getting to know the people around Amy. And what further helps in this regard is the organic feeling puzzle design. The interface is your usual bare-bones Wadjet Eye style. Left-click to interact, right-click to examine, you get the drill. Being the resourceful type that Amy is, she'll often have to scrounge up whatever materials she can and figure out how to use them where they'd be most effective. And I really like the feeling of improvisation you get when figuring out the puzzles. You'd be surprised what you can accomplish with a piece of metal here or a rope there, or just the various uses you find for Amy's trusty crossbow beyond just shooting people. Some of my favorite puzzles are the ones where you directly operate the items in your possession, like rubbing a wax candle across a piece of paper to make an impression of a plate, or tying strings to pins to spell out a hidden message. There's nary any moon logic to be found either. From time to time I was a bit unclear on how to proceed, but talking to other people and exploring a bit usually got me back on track. The pacing of the game is quite nicely done overall, and it's a joy to progress and see every new location along the way. The artwork by Ben Chandler is of high quality, as we've come to expect of him from his previous work on games like Blackwell Epiphany, Techno Babylon, and the Charnel House trilogy. The low-res painted backgrounds are oddly gorgeous in all their devastation and decay, and exceptionally colorful in contrast to the usual brown and murky wasteland. Plus, there's a lot of animation everywhere, with the creepy ravens, shimmering water, bits and pieces waving in the wind, fires burning, dust clouds blowing past, all of which makes every location feel dynamic and atmospheric. And of course, let's not forget the ever-present shards of uranium glass that shed their sickly green light everywhere, and are of course what the game is named after. Each character looks great as well. Everyone is lovingly detailed and animated, and pretty lively overall. Heck, one of my favorite details are just the people that randomly walk by or stop and look through the merchant's wear at the marketplace. It's just an extra bit of effort that makes the world feel that much more real. Adding to the atmosphere is the music by composer Nathaniel Chambers and guitarist Al Gonzalez, no relation to Francisco. Nate Chambers is of course no stranger to bleak and moody post-apocalypse environments, as he previously scored Wadjet Eye's Primordia. The soundtrack feels very ambient with its acoustic guitar and piano sounds to create a very foreboding and moody feeling, especially the way it often blends with the background noise. It actually kinda reminds me of The Last of Us, but nevertheless has its own distinct sound. The voice acting is superb as well, with all the usual Wadjet Eye heavy hitters like Eli Green, Daryl Lathan, Brian Silliman, Miranda Govin, and others. Amy herself is played by Shelley Shinoy, whose performance is just the right mix of sassiness and vulnerability for the role.
Look, I know you don't understand what's happening. I'm grateful for you looking out for me. I am. But I need to find the truth. Please accept that.
And of course, we can't forget our old friend Abe Goldfarb, aka Joey from Blackwell, who shines as the magnificently charming yet sinister Tiberius, turning what could have been a very cartoony villain into a dignified, cunning figure.
I suppose you can consider yourself lucky that you did not meet the same fate. Perhaps this good fortune will continue for tomorrow's lottery drawing.
Also worthy of note is the presence of a celebrity voice actor in the cast, namely Mike Pollock, whom you might remember as this guy.
Precious little aliens! I'll harness their hyper-go-on power, and then nothing will stop me! I know I say that every time, but this time, really, nothing will stop me!
Of course, he's a lot more down to earth in this game, but he still gives a lot of dignity to the two roles he has.
Take a look around. Hell, just take a whiff. That's the stench of failure.
And hey, even fellow adventure game enthusiast Some Guy has a tiny cameo in the game. So, David Gilbert, if you're watching, could you please give me a part in your next game? Thanks, I love you. Last but not least, the game has all the extra bells and whistles that any Wadjet Eye game worth its salt should have. Full-length creator commentary, voice acting bloopers, concept art, achievements, the works. The commentary in this game is especially enjoyable and educational, as Francisco, Ben, Dave, and Nate all explain in great detail the work that went into the game. And it's especially entertaining hearing Francisco and Ben banter with each other, almost like you're listening to a lost episode of their Blue Cup Tools podcast. So to conclude, Shardlight is yet another surefire winner in Wadjet Eye's library. Even with the game's relatively short length, seeing as I beat it in about 6 hours, it used every minute of that time to tell its story, show the world, and present one entertaining puzzle after another without missing a beat, and left me feeling very satisfied when it was all over. And then I immediately went through it a second time to hear the commentary. If you're a fan of adventure games, Wadjet Eye games, and post-apocalyptic fiction in general, getting this game should be a no-brainer. As I said, it's up on Steam and GOG.com right now, so go get it.
Gonna run toward the raven's cries, gonna sleep where the shadows rise, gonna hide from the emerald skies that shine on government gallows.
If you enjoyed my look at this particular Wadjet Eye adventure, why not go and check out my review of some of their earlier works? Or if you're feeling like checking out something a little different, there's my review of the bizarre Christmas adventure, Spud. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on my latest videos, and drop by my Patreon to support the channel with a monthly contribution per full-length video. Thanks for watching, be seeing you all out there somewhere.
We see, release our soul.